What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast. Happy draft day, ladies and gentlemen. We're finally here. If you're listening to this at the last second, you need to get caught up on all the NFL draft content. I have you covered. Yesterday's episode was defensive players. The day before that was offensive players. Today we have a full 3-round mock draft marathon. I have no idea how long this episode is, ladies and gentlemen, but it's going to be a hoot. It's going to be a long one. So why don't you buckle your seatbelts? Nobody has their finger on the pulse of these prospects quite like me. I have a full list of defensive players. I have a full list of offensive players. We're going to get down to the brass tacks. I do want to tell you guys, we're not going to have any trades. We're not going to have any trades that'll just overcomplicate the shit out of things, and I don't want to deal with it. However, I will tell you in certain areas where I think a trade might be happening. I have my big board here to my left, so if you see me constantly looking to the left, that's where I'm looking at. I have my mock draft in front of me. Shout out Pro Football Sim. No free ads. But here we go. Without further ado, final mock draft, 3 rounds. Fire Sports Takes edition. We're starting off at number 1 with Fernando Mendoza. I've been seeing a bunch of different stuff with the New York Jets regarding Arvell Reese, David Bailey. They're about even money right now. I think Arvell Reese is the slight favorite. My gut is telling me that all this David Bailey stuff has been a whole bunch of smoke. Reality of the situation is the Jets can't fuck this up. I think Arvell Reese gives you a higher floor than a lot of people think, not a higher floor than David Bailey as a pure edge rusher, but he brings so much defensive versatility that even if he's not he doesn't give you great production off the edge on day one, he's still going to bring some type of aspect to that defense. He can play in that off-ball linebacker role, although you don't want him turning his hips and dropping in the coverage that often because that is his biggest weakness as an off-ball linebacker. He had some really good stuff on tape. It kind of tailored off towards the end of the year in terms of his production as an edge rusher. Really raw in that aspect, has a lot of refinement, but boy, is that ceiling there with his size, his frame, his speed, and his quickness off the edge was on full display. I think the Jets can't really mess it up, whether they go Arvell Reese or David Bailey. They're going to knock it out of the park either way. I would like Ruben Bain here. Personally, I think he's the best edge available in this year's draft, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's going to be Bailey or Reese. We haven't seen a lot of Ruben Bain, unless Ruben Bain's the best kept secret in the sport right now, to the Jets at 2. But let's just go with Arvell Reese, who's the betting favorite right now and who I think the Jets are going to take. I think all this Ruben Bain stuff or all this David Bailey stuff is a whole bunch of smoke. The Cardinals at 3, they need a whole bunch of things. They've been rumored to like Ty Simpson, so I think a trade back here is very, very attainable. But who here is going to come up? Why would you, if you're one of these top 9 picks and you have all of these good defensive players, and I'm not kidding, I think there's a steep fall off after Mansour Delane. Jermon McCoy has his own set of problems. I think Dylan Thieneman, however you say his name, is a good player, but taking him in the top 10 is ludicrous. And all of these players, even though there's some, Chris Johnson's getting incredibly disrespected being this low, same with D'Angelo Pons, Lee Hunter being this low is outrageous. AJ Halsey, shout out AJ Halsey for skyrocketing up this board on the PFSN. But there's some players deep down the R. Mason Thomas being this low is outrageous. There's a lot of good defensive players, but there's no player after Mansour Delane. If you're looking at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then obviously Arvell Reese 6. After those guys, it's a steep fall off. Why would a team that's in a position to get at least one of these guys trade up and give up draft capital from next year's draft class in order to move up this year to select one of these guys that's likely going to be there? I would be shocked if we see the Cardinals go Bailey, the Titans go Styles, the Giants go Bain. No offensive players come off the board in the top 10, and that leaves the Saints and the Chiefs swinging and missing, and they just have to go receiver or offensive lineman or reach on one of the other defenders. I think we're going to see, to assume that the Chiefs are a team, I've been seeing a lot of people are saying they're trading up. Same thing with the Saints. To assume that one of those players won't reach 8 or 9 would also mean that Jeremiah Love drops out of the top 8. We don't see a wide receiver in the top 8. We don't see a tackle. And I feel like that's not the world we live in. That being said, the Cardinals at 3, I think they just go David Bailey. I understand they need an offensive tackle. I understand they like Jeremiah Love. Going Jeremiah Love at 3 would just be way too high. And then at 4, a lot of hubbub about the Titans taking Jeremiah Love. I in my last mock draft, I had the Titans taking a tackle, and I got told that was ludicrous, ridiculous. Why would they ever do that? They had the worst offensive line in the sport last year. They have a rookie quarterback. They need to protect him. And I love Jeremiah Love. I love the tackles in this class a little bit. I've gone more bullish on the tackles more that I've watched them, especially Maui Noah. I do like the tackles in the back end, like Iheanacho out of Arizona State, Miller out of Clemson. So I think the Titans might be in a position where they could get another offensive lineman, a good starting caliber tackle here at 35. So keep an eye on that. But at 4, I mean, Robert Saleh, he loves his defensive ends. And I understand they brought in John Franklin Myers. They brought in Jermaine Johnson this offseason, who was with Bob Saleh when he was in New York a couple of years ago. And Franklin Myers had a really productive season. Jermaine Johnson had a Pro Bowl type of season. It's edge rusher by committee, constantly recycling these edge guys. And I think Ruben Bain here, I understand there's the arm length concern combined with the incident he had with law enforcement driving his car. I don't know the full details, but I know there was an incident. I honestly think he has the most polished, best edge rusher in this year's class. He's going to produce right away. Give me Ruben Bain to the Tennessee Titans at 4. And now all of a sudden, the Titans defense looks really legit, especially on the defensive line with John Franklin Myers, Ruben Bain, Jermaine Johnson, Jeffrey Simmons was an all-pro last year. That is nasty stuff. The Giants at 5, they signed Tremaine Edmonds this offseason, but they still have one of the worst run defenses in the league last year. They could also go running back with Jeremiah Love. I wouldn't completely rule that out of the picture as well. But just when you go running back this early, think about the teams that have gone running back early over the past. The Panthers with McCaffrey, the Jags with Fournette, the Giants with Saquon, the Raiders last year with Genti, the Falcons with Bijan. Have any of those teams made the playoffs besides, well, the Panthers made the Super Bowl McCaffrey's rookie year, but he wasn't like a key part in that offense. And the Jags made the AFC Championship with Saxonville and Blake Bortles. But after that, the Jags stunk. The Falcons have not made the playoffs with Bijan Robinson. The Giants made the playoffs once with Saquon Barkley, but the NFC that year was a complete and utter disaster. Like, teams were not good. Like, it wasn't sustainable good football out of the teams that took running backs that early because you're paying them like a top 10 RB when you could draft a player like Ruben Bain at edge who can produce like the way Micah Parsons produced his first couple of years as a premier edge rusher, but you're paying him on a rookie deal instead of $30 million a year. So going RB early does not make a lot of sense. And the Giants, I do say that, you have Caleb Downs, you have Sonny Styles, and that's a similar thing with them. Like those positions don't get paid a whole lot of money. So go and get Mansour Delane, who I think can be a shutdown corner right off the rip at a premium position. Positional value fucking matters. I'm tired of pretending that it doesn't. And the Browns at 6, they need wide receiver. They need offensive line. I think they need offensive line a little bit more than they need wide receiver. No disrespect to Jerry Jeudy. Well, yeah, I think Jerry Jeudy's fine. Obviously, you want to upgrade there, but then they also have Harold Fannin, who I think is going to just take another step. They need guys. Cedric Tillman has flashed a little bit, but I think their offensive line was atrocious last year, and you're not going to get a guy as consistent as Francis Mauigoa later in this draft. Like, he was unbelievable. So much anchor when he gets driven back. Really good lateral quickness. When he gets his hands on you, look out. And if he does get beat with speed, a few times he did this. He has the ability to just put his hands on you, give you a little punch, a little pop, and put you on your fucking ass. The dude has ridiculous strength, really fundamentally sound, not like an athletic freak in terms of his size, his arm strength, his length, like a Caden Proctor or Monroe Freeling, but still a really technically sound, strong player. Put him at tackle for the Cleveland Browns. And then the Commanders at 7, ladies and gentlemen, if Jeremiah Love. No, I don't like. I think I read a report that the Commanders are all over Sonny Styles. They do need a linebacker, but they just signed the linebacker from the Chiefs, Leo Chenal. So I don't know if they want to double dip at the position and go with Sonny Styles. They could go Caleb Downs here, but either way, Jeremiah Love and Jaden Daniels would be disgusting. Maybe that Sonny Styles play was a smokescreen so that Jeremiah Love might fall here and a team won't come and trade up. But I think anybody with eyes realizes that, hey, the Commanders would likely take Jeremiah Love. And the fact that the Saints and the Chiefs both signed running backs this offseason has me believe that Jeremiah Love's not going to make it there. And although I do think the Commanders have needs in the secondary a little bit, I like Trey Amos. I'm not done with him after his rookie season last year. I like Mikey Sanders still. They signed a safety. I'm forgetting the safety that they signed. I'm forgetting the safety that's signed. Whatever. Odafe Owe, at the edge position. All the edge rushers at this point are off the board. The top 3 elite edge rushers. Why not just go weapon and get an absolute beast in Jeremiah Love for the Washington Commanders? And every time we get here with the Saints, and the Chiefs, there's going to be 2 defenders on the board, and I think whoever the Saints don't take, the Chiefs are just going to take the other. Like I said, the Chiefs lost Leo Chenal. The Saints also lost Demario Davis. The Saints lost Cam Jordan. They lost Alante Taylor. Those are their 2 leaders in sacks. Their leader in sacks. Their 2 leaders in tackles. They need help defensively, so I don't think they could go wide receiver here. I think Chris Olave is more than serviceable. He was an All-Pro last year. Obviously, he's more than serviceable. So I think they could go with Sonny Styles, just replace Demario Davis right off the rip. And then the Chiefs should be really ecstatic to get one of the most proven, productive players in this draft in Caleb Downs, who I think is a top 3 player in this draft. And the Giants at 10, Jordan Tyson's falling there. Apparently, they had lunch with Jordan Tyson, the Giants front office. The dude's a beast, man. He's the best receiver in the draft, in my opinion. I think he's the best separator. He's got good burst off the line of scrimmage. The durability issues, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I just go based off what I see with my own two eyes, and I think Tyson's a little bit better than Carnell Tate, and I think he's way better than Mekhi Lemon. Pairing him up with Malik Neighbors would be absolutely diabolical for Jackson Dart behind her, and they have one of the best left tackles in football in Andrew Thomas as well. So the Giants, Jordan Tyson and Mansour Delane is just a nasty, nasty haul for them. Jordan Tyson for Dexter Lawrence, that's a win-win trade if I've ever seen. Now the Dolphins at 11. For some reason, these Dolphins fans hate when I take a receiver here. They're always like, why would the Dolphins take a receiver? I don't know, because they're running out Tutu fucking Atwell and Malik Washington as their receivers. They're going with Carnell fucking Tate, and that's a W pick. And you Dolphins fans, you just shut up in my comments section. They have a million gazillion needs. Carnell Tate's the best player on the board at their biggest position of need. And for some reason, the Dolphins fans are in my comments section talking like I'm a fucking clown because I have the Dolphins taking the best player at their biggest position of need. Tutu Atwell's better, or Storm Duck is better than Tutu fucking Atwell. Not that Storm Duck's a reliable CB1, but what are we doing? The Dolphins have so many needs, man. They do. Like, why is it crazy for them to take a wide receiver when their biggest need is wide receiver? So shut up if you're a Dolphins fan. Jeez. 12, the Cowboys. Let's start speeding through here. So I've done a million of these first round mock drafts. So if you want to watch them, go through them. We're going to start speeding through here so we can get to the second round and third round and really go in depth with some of the things that could happen here. On McCoy here, there's a lot of injury concern with him. He's fallen a lot down boards. He didn't look too good in his pro day in the on the field drills. He ran really well, obviously. His tape was really good. I think it's a slightly overrated. He doesn't get his head around, but he's always in the right position. Let me tell you that. Let me lead with that. The dude is patient. He gets his hands on you. He can stuff you, throw off your timing at the line of scrimmage, and he's patient, twitchy. He's always in your inside hip. He's always in phase. He just doesn't get his head around when the ball's in the air, and that can lead to the 8 pass interference penalties we saw in 2024. He might be a walking PI flag at the next level, but if he can learn to get his head around and find the football, the sky's the limit for this guy who's really good in coverage. He's really, really sticky. I would still take him, but I'm not. There's a lot of injury stuff. I don't care for injury stuff that much. I go based off tape and what he ran, but apparently the rumors are, I'm trying to speed through this and I'm just taking 10 million years. But either way, Jamal McCoy's a little bit suspect, but the Cowboys need a safety. They go Dylan Thieneman. And I think we're going to see more safeties go in the top 20 than we've ever. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, if we see a team swing on Traden Stokes, or if we see AJ Halsey go at the end of the first round. That dude's tape, by the way, is unbelievable. We'll talk about that guy later in today's episode. The Rams at 13. Mekhi Lemon's there. I think I've had him mocked here a gazillion times. He's such a good scheme fit because he struggles to get off press coverage. They're going to get a ton of free releases. They need a wide receiver 3. Jordan Whittington's not the answer there. They lost Tutu Atwell. They need a wide receiver 3. Mekhi Lemon is perfect. And then Devontae's contract is up. You can throw him in. And I don't know if he can play on the outside, but at least you're not going to lose a step in production-wise. Hopefully, once you lose Devontae, maybe red zone production, but you lose Devontae, Mekhi Lemon can step up and fill that void immediately. Ideally, theoretically, I love Mekhi Lemon here. And Sean McVay, those guys are running laps in their backfield before the play starts. That means a lot of free releases. Kai's biggest weakness is against press coverage. He struggles to break it with his size frame. His releases aren't the greatest, although it's in there, obviously. Needs a little bit of refinement. Kai at 13 is beautiful. 14, a lot of people are penciling in Vega Ioane. I've done that every single time, and we're going to continue to do that, man. I mean, I try to stay away from watching Drew Aller throw the football, but I had a lot of fun watching Katron Allen and Nick Singleton run right behind this dude. And he is a dude, man. He's a beast. You could argue top 5 player. I would argue blue chip. Like, there's only so many blue chip prospects. In my mind, it's Vega, Vega Ioane, Ruben Bain, not Fernando. Where is he? Jeremiah Love and Jordan Tyson. Those are my blue chips, and Vega falls into that category all day, man. And I would say D'Angelo Pons because I'm so high on that guy. But either way, the Bucks at 15, man. Could they go Jermod McCoy here? Potentially. I think we might see a Will Johnson type of fall out of Jermod McCoy with all the injury concerns, although I think that's ridiculous. He should go early. He is an absolute fucking baller. The Bucks need help on the edge. Could they go Keldrick Falk, who's a really good run defender, has 0 pass rush moves? Like, he's just a bull rush and pray, and his bull rush isn't even that effective, but he does have ridiculously long arms, so he could go here. I like Akeem Messidor here to the Bucks a whole lot as well. Could they go off-ball linebacker? Is it too early for a Jacob Rodriguez, a CJ Allen? This has Harold Perkins all the way down here. I think that's a joke. Kyle Lewis is a solid player as well, but I just don't see it that way. I think the Bucks need to go edge rusher. They get a guy that's instant production off the edge, I think, immediately, and a key messenger, and he provides you a lot of versatility because when he was at West Virginia, he played a lot in the three technique and on the interior of that defensive line before he burst onto the scene as a really productive edge rusher in Miami. Good bend, good physical strength, good pass rush moves and counter moves. He's the full package. He's just 25. I don't believe in ageism. That's why I was bullish on Tyler Shuck before you were bullish on Tyler Shuck. And then my Jets back on the clock again at 16. And I hate this spot. I hate this spot because look at all these tackles still on the board, man. And there's a lot of good tackles still here. Caden Proctor, but the Jets don't need a tackle. They went back. They went not Troy Fluckman. They went Olufashanu 2 years ago, Armand Membu last year, and Armand Membu was the best rookie offensive player last year. Don't get it mixed up. So they're not going to go tackle. So this could be a trade-up spot for a team, maybe like the Steelers if they want to come up and get a tackle, if the Chargers want to come up and get another offensive lineman, even though they're set at tackle, if the Eagles want to come up and get a Lane Johnson replacement, this could be a spot where I wouldn't mind the Jets moving back because you can move back and still get a really good corner, still get some depth on the interior of that defensive line, and then another great player with some more draft assets, some more. I'm thinking of the word. Assets is the right word, but you could acquire more draft capital was the phrase I was looking for. Also move back a little bit and still get the player that you'd likely take here at 16. And who that player is, I honestly cannot tell you. I mean, they have a lot of needs. They have a lot of needs. They're not going to go offensive line. Well, I just say low priority tight end. Like Mason Taylor is good. Not that I mean, I like Eli Stowers more than Kenyon Sadiq. That's a hot take. We'll get into Stowers at some point here, and I can't wait to do that. But I don't know what the Jets do here. I really don't know. Could they reach on a guard? Maybe. I mean, I really do like Emmanuel Pagnon. I like Duncan Jennings or whatever his name is out of Iowa. So like, it's too early for a guard though. Do they just go best defensive player available? I don't like Jermon McCoy. You know who I like a whole fucking lot though, chat. You want to know who I like a whole lot, chat? And this might look a little bit skeptical. This might not look like the greatest pick in when you put out the mock draft. Let me get to my notes on him because his production was absolutely unbelievable. I have him as my CB2 in this year's draft, and that would be none other than Chris Johnson out of San Diego State to the Jets at 16. 9 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, 1 forced fumble. He's 6 foot 193. 2-year starter, only allowed 18 catches last year on a 31% completion percentage when targeted, 4 interceptions, 16.1 passer rating allowed. The only problem with Chris Johnson is that he did it in the Mountain West, where you have Jermon McCoy, who put up really insane tape and really insane production, kind of 8 pass interference penalties, doesn't get his head around the football, but he did it in the SEC, locked up Ryan Williams. And you have Mansour Lane, who did it in the SEC. And you have D'Angelo Pons, who did it in the Big Ten, in the national championship game, in the Big Ten championship game, in the college football playoff. Like, you have these guys that produced a really high level against some of the best comp, and you have Chris Johnson, who produced at a really elite level against the Mountain West. But also, you can't deny the production, and the tape doesn't lie. Really physical tackler, doesn't bite for the double move, incredibly patient, good ball skills, gets his head around to the football, ran in the 4.4s. The dude's unbelievable. The dude is a beast. I think he, without a doubt, is a safer option than Jermon McCoy. I really love Chris Johnson to the Jets here at 16. And this isn't going to look good on the graphic. It's a little bit of a hot take, but I do not care. I wasn't as blown away from the Jermon McCoy tape as everybody else was. And again, I can't watch all 22. I'm not paying for it. I'm a broke ass motherfucker. So hit that subscribe button. But in the YouTube cut-ups that I watched in 2024, Jermon McCoy was great. He was always in the right position, like I said, but he's just not as, he doesn't get his head around as well and make a play on the football the way that Chris Johnson, who was a really technically sound player, very rarely got beat. And he does get a little bit shallow in zone coverage when he's playing the flat or he's playing in a deep third. He can get manipulated with his eyes a little bit, but I think this dude's unbelievable. I'm trying to fly through this, and I'm just taking 10 million years. The Giants at 17, this is where we start seeing some tackles come off the board. So let's get the fly in here. I'm going to have the tackles go off the board in the way that I ranked them on yesterday's episode. That's just how we're going to do it. Actually, no, that's not how we're going to do it. That's not how we're going to do it at all, because I think a team like the Eagles could take a tackle with a higher ceiling and a tackle that doesn't need to start right away, where I think a team like the Lions needs a tackle that can start right away, and that's what they're going to get in Spencer Fonda, who did play right tackle, so they're either going to have to swing him or Penei Sewell over to left, but either way, this dude was unbelievable. Good anchor, had really good reps against David Bailey, really good reps against Romello Heights. This dude's a baller. I think he's going to be a starting tackle in this league for a really long time. I think the Vikings at 18 go with Peter Woods, who had a really good 2024, fell off a little bit in 2025, but the athleticism is there. Really strong hands, good hand fighting, versatile defensive lineman as well. He can play on the outside. He can play the 3 technique. He can play in the nose tackle. Really good athlete. Some of the tackles he made, some of the sacks he made, like he had no business making these plays, and he still made them. Really good hand fighting, packs a whole lot of punch when he gets up under your pads. His pad level can rise a little bit, but it's not really that big of a deal because of how athletic he is. Peter Woods, Jalen Redmond on the interior of that Vikings defense and that's nasty. They lost Javon Hargrave. They lost Jonathan Allen, who wasn't that good for them anyway last year. So that is a hole for them next to Jalen Redmond. I think they get a really versatile player in Peter Woods on that Brian Flores defense. The Panthers at 19. Everybody's penciling in Kenyon Sadiq here. I don't see it that way. It says their need is O-tackle, offensive tackle, but they signed Rasheed Walker. They have Ike Ekwonu. They have Taylor Moton. So I don't know if they go offensive lineman here. Why can't they go receiver? Why can't they go receiver? Also, the Panthers have made a real commitment to stopping the run. They were one of the worst run defending teams a year ago or a couple years ago. They get in NFL history, not even just that season, but that season by far the worst. They get Derek Brown back. He's better this year. They add Devin Lloyd. They add Jalen Phillips, who has a very, very similar build and player comp to, where is he? To a Keldrick Falk. So they could go edge here. They could most definitely go edge here and just pair up Keldrick Falk with Jalen Phillips, and nobody's running an outside zone concept on this Panthers team ever again, especially with Devin Lloyd's speed. And I like that, and that's what we're going to do here. They just solidify that defensive line. And Phillips and Falk can both play all in every different. Well, they can't play nose or three tech, but they can push in a little bit, right? They're not going to be purely edge guys because of their size and their weight and their strength. Now, if Jamal McCoy falls to the Cowboys at 20, why not, man? You already picked Dylan Thieneman. Go ahead and get a guy with really, really elite upside if he can stay on the field. He didn't, again, I heard something. Peter Schrager said that the teams weren't impressed with his on-field workout at his pro day. Although he ran really well and his tape's really good, I'm getting weird vibes with Jamal McCoy, and I think he can fall a little bit. And I was really impressed with, like I said, I already talked about, I'm not going to beat it. I was really impressed with Chris Johnson's tape, almost as impressed with his tape as I was with Jamal McCoy's. And there's no injury concern with Chris Johnson. Like, this isn't a wide receiver thing where I'm taking Tyson even though he has the injury concern. I think Tyson's tape is by far and away the best out of any of the receivers in this year's draft. So I'm not worried about the injury. But I think McCoy's tape and Johnson's tape was really similar, but McCoy has the injury concerns. And you could say, well, Devin, McCoy also did it against the SEC. And I think you're completely correct to assume that. You're completely correct to assume that. But I've seen it more recently with Johnson, and I was a big fan of his production, and then the tape matched it up, and then the athletic ability matched it up as well. So I really do like Chris Johnson a whole lot at San Diego State. The Steelers at 21, they could do a whole lot of things. I'm not doing the Ty Simpson thing. I'm just not doing it. I think he falls out of the first round, quite frankly. He didn't start enough. And out of the teams that are going to pick quarterback, this is more of a Ty Simpson customer service pander type of move out of me. I just don't want him going to a situation where he's going to have to play right away because I think he's going to fail. And we don't know the situation with Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers picked Kenny Pickett in this area last year, although that wasn't Omar Khan. So who knows? But they could go Ty Simpson. I don't think they're that interested in Ty Simpson. I haven't seen any reports linking. I've seen reports saying the opposite, that they're unlikely to go Ty Simpson. They need help on the offensive line. They go out and get Monroe Freeling out of Georgia, who is an athletic freak, can kick inside and replace Isaac Seumalo, or they can kick Broderick Jones inside. But they need offensive line help desperately. They go with Monroe Freeling. The Chargers need edge help. The Chargers need defensive line help. They could go with another offensive lineman and kick them inside to play guard as well, but they have Rashawn Slater. They have my brain, Joe Alt. So I don't think they need tackle. They could go tight end. I understand Arondé Gadsden had a better than expected rookie year, but they could go with Kenyon Sadiq here. I wouldn't rule that out of the question. They could low-key go receiver. They're losing Keenan Allen. Ladd had a little bit of a drop off. Quentin Johnson hasn't panned out. They could go receiver here. I wouldn't be shocked at all, but I think they got to go and pair up Tyler Tart with an elite player on the interior of that defense, and that is Caden McDonald, who was the anchor for that Ohio State Buckeyes defense that was one of the best in the NFL or in the country, and not just in the country, but in all of college football. The dude's strong, packs a punch with his hands, good pad level, drives you back, puts pressure on the quarterback with straight bull rush, more athletic than people think. Just always has four hands on him. Just opens things up for Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs to get downhill and make plays and fill gaps. He's just an unbelievable anchor and can be the heart of a defense. Pair him up with T.R. Tart, and that's a lot of elite production on the interior for that Chargers defensive line. The Eagles at 23, they go with Isaac Iheanacho, the offensive lineman who's only been playing football for 5 years. Similar type of thing with Jordan Mailata, who was the 7th-round pick rugby player. This guy needs some refinement. He needs to wait a little bit. I thought he looked really good against David Bailey, who's going to be a top 3 pick in this year's draft. And he looked really good against Romello Heights, who's going to be a day 2 pick in this year's draft, two of the most productive edge rushers in the country last year. I thought Iheanacho handled them well. Obviously, Bailey won some reps, but he held his own for sure for a guy that's only been playing football for 5 years. Go to the Eagles offensive line that has been an offensive lineman factory, and an Eagles franchise that has been an offensive lineman factory. They did lose their line coach, which is worth noting, which is worth monitoring, but go learn behind Lane Johnson, and you have your replacement at offensive tackle. Who did I have the Browns? Well, I had them going Francis Mauigoa in the first with their first pick, and then Casey Concepcion. Man, this guy's unbelievable. Great twitch. Good ball skills. I don't care about the drop rate. Good ball skills, concentration drops. Romeo Dobbs has the concentration. He signed $20 million. I've said that a million times. I'm going to continue to say it. They don't bother me that much. Casey Concepcion, great route runner, great after the catch, one of the best punt returners in the NFL or in the country last year, one of the best kick returners. The Browns lock up their offensive tackle and they get a guy in Casey who can get open with anybody. I think he got robbed of a Biletnikoff because Marcel Reed was inaccurate. The Bears at 25. Interior defensive line is in play. The edge rusher is in play for sure. And I think there's a really productive edge rusher that does not get talked about enough and has really skyrocketed up draft boards. Similar size and frame to Cassius Howell, I believe, or was he similar to Cassius Howell? Malachi Lawrence was incredibly productive. We're not going to do him quite yet, though, especially with a guy like Zion Young still on the board. The Bears could also go safety. Where's their low priority? Quarterback and tight end. So they're open for everything. The Bears could go offensive line too, because like Ozzy Trapillo has a patellar tendon tear, and Caleb Lome, who played left tackle, I thought he was really productive. I've seen a lot of people have him like fall down boards a little bit. I thought he did really well against David Bailey and Romello Heights as well. The Bears go get a tackle with the uncertainty of Ozzy Trapillo. The Bills at 26, they could go edge here, which just says is their need, but they did sign Bradley Chubb. They want to stop the run. That's what the Bills want to do. And there's not a player with more TFLs at the edge rusher position over the past few seasons than Mr. TJ Parker out of Clemson. Big frame. Let me get a look on this guy. Really, what are his measurables? 6'3", 263. Bull. The guy just goes right through your chest. He drives back the pocket. He gets his hands on the inside of you. He lowers his pad level. He gets really good drive. That's about all he does, though. Yeah, I very rarely saw him win with a speed rush, with a rip. So he is a little bit raw, needs some more development in terms of his pass rush counter move, but really good tackler as well. He's always in the backfield. He's always around the football, really high motor. I love me some TJ Parker. At 27, and all of a sudden the Bills look like Bradley Chubb's a really good run defender. And Ed Oliver, when he's healthy, is a good run defender. And TJ Parker's a good run defender. So now they have some good run defenders on the outside. The 49ers at 27. They could go edge here for sure, and there's a bunch of good edges still on the board. They could also go tackle, and with Caden Proctor right here, tackle makes a lot of sense because you have they just signed Trent Williams from a 2-year deal. Caden Proctor needs to sit and learn and stay in shape. He also gives you a lot of depth. Like if he can be a swing tackle for you guys, or you can throw him in, he can be your 6th offensive lineman whenever someone goes down, and you're getting a sixth offensive lineman that's 6'6", 350. Look the fuck out, but he needs a lot of polishing. Really quick, really slow in his lateral movement. Not really good in a hand fight situation. He gets beat a lot, but he needs refinement. Go learn behind Trent Williams, and then have Trent Williams replacement ready to go at 6'5", 270 or 370, whatever the hell he is. So yeah, Caden Proctor, the Niners at 27. The Texans at 28. I think they got to go interior offensive line, and Emmanuel Pregnon is a guy that is just absolutely nasty. I saw a stat on him. I jotted it down on my big board. Let me get to it real quick. 7 sacks in 4 years of starting. He only allowed 7 sacks. That's ridiculous. 4 years starting at Oregon, only allowed 7 sacks. Dude's a stud. They need help on the interior of that offensive line. They sure up that. And all of a sudden now, Braden Smith, Ariante Ursray, Emmanuel Pregnon, and they've got some really good starting pieces. And they signed up, not Kevin Zeitler. They signed another veteran guard this offseason as well. And all of a sudden they have some nice solid pieces on that offensive line. And the Chiefs, I think this would be a really, really good landing spot for Kenyon Sadiq, who can't start right away, but the upside is unbelievable. Go learn behind a first ballot Hall of Famer in Travis Kelce. And what's one thing about Andy Reid? He loves fucking speed, man. He loves speed. Get the guy that shattered the 40-yard dash combine record at a 4.38, which is just unbelievably ridiculous. The Chiefs go Sadiq. Who'd have the Chiefs take with it? Downs and Sadiq. Oh man, both two players on the complete different ends of the spectrum. Like Downs isn't that athletic freak, not a really high RAS grade. Yeah, Sadiq on but Downs is a really refined, polished, smart, fundamentally sound player. Kenyon Sadiq's the opposite, right? The opposite. Not fundamentally sound as route running. Can't really block. Undersized. But fuck is he fast. Fuck can he jump high. And boy is he explosive. And he has really good hands as well. The Dolphins at 30. Who'd I have the Dolphins taking? Carnell Tate. So they could go corner here for sure. Colton Hood staring them in the face. But I don't think Colton Hood is that good, quite frankly. Like I'd much rather take a D'Angelo Pons over Colton Hood. I'd much rather take like one of these linebackers, whether it's Jacob Rodriguez or CJ Allen, or even the linebacker out of Texas, Anthony Hill Jr. But I'm a dumbass. Their linebacker room is really solid. So I'm a dumbass. That's a bad take. They could go edge. They did just lose Bradley Chubb, and I think they will. I think they go with Zion Young, who is just a beast off the edge, replace Bradley Chubb with a good bull rusher who can set the edge in the run game as well. That's actually that's a really good, solid edge piece. On a defensive line now was Zion Young, if he can produce, Chop Robinson, the guy Kenneth Grant out of Michigan last year, and then Zach Sealer, and that defensive line in Miami. That's all of a sudden the defensive line you could build behind. So I like that from Miami a lot, actually. I think that's a really solid one. I think Miami, if this is the way things turned out with Miami, they get a stud on the offensive side of the ball. They get a productive bull rusher on the defensive side of the ball to go on the other side of Chop Robinson on that defensive line that has a lot of young ascending talent. And I think that's a solid start here in terms of rebuilding for the Miami Dolphins. The Patriots at 31, they need receiver, man, and they go with Omar Cooper, who I think is one of the better separators in this year's draft class. He's my wide receiver 4, good after the catch, good ball. Oh no, I'm dumb. They're probably trading for AJ Brown, so we're gonna scratch that, scratch that, scratch that. The Patriots need an edge rusher. I don't like the edges like right here. I think it's a little early for Gabe Yakus, who's moved up tremendously since I recorded yesterday. Cassius Howell can come in and be instant production. He's going to get after the quarterback, but it's in a limited role. He can't be on the field during passing down. He's not a good pass rusher, or during running down. He's a strictly passing down player, but boy is he fast. A little bit of one trick pony, speed off the edge, gets to the quarterback. Closing speed is really solid, but he's undersized. Doesn't have great arm length. He's a liability against the run, so he can't be. He reminds me a lot of Will McDonald, the Jets defensive end. Like he's fast, good bend, gonna get around, good athlete, gonna get to the quarterback, gonna be a 10-sack guy in passing down scenarios. The stats back that up, but it's just the Patriots have the depth at edge where he can be off the field on first downs or on in rushing situations. I think they do. So Cassius Howell here isn't completely out of the equation. They do need an off-ball linebacker, and I think Jacob Rodriguez has some of the best tape, although he wasn't even the best linebacker on his team last year. That number 0 was. That dude is fucking unbelievable. CJ Allen, Anthony Hill Jr. are also on the board here. I wouldn't be shocked. Is every offensive tackle off the board? Blake Miller, it would be a great shot. This dude is one of my favorite players in this year's draft. Didn't allow a sack in every game he started at Clemson. He was an all-state wrestler, all-state track and field, all-academic team, really smart guy. The run game is just not ideal. And I know Vrabel wants to pound the rock. He wants to run the football, so maybe that's not the best case here. Where did the fucking Patriots go? They did take Elijah Vera Tucker, though. So and that guy, if he's on the field, he's elite, but he's never on the field. Go and get a swing lineman. Go get an offensive tackle. And Morgan Moses is going to need a replacement at some point at right tackle, right? So go get Blake Miller, and all of a sudden you have 2 back-to-back first-round tackles. And then the Seattle Seahawks at 32, they need edge rusher as well. They also need a safety to replace Kobe Bryant. They go with Emmanuel McNeil Warren. All right, I'm going to take a break, and then we will be back for the second round. But right now, we're looking at some of the best players available. Omar Cooper Jr. still on the board. Colton Hood still on the board. Christian Miller. I think Lee Hunter down here still on the board is nasty. Braden Stukes. Chris Brazzell down here. And there's a lot of good players still on the board. Even deeper, like we're going to see some of these RBs come off. I think Jennings Dunker, there he is. I alluded to him earlier. Julian Neal, the corner out of Arkansas, is a guy I really like a lot. Eli Stowers is not going to make it to the third round. There's a lot. This guy out of Cincinnati has an incredibly high. Bryce Lance being this high is unbelievable. But there's a lot of guys here. We still got a lot of stuff to go through. So I'm going to take a break, and then we'll be back for the rest of the last 2 rounds of this mock. All right, let's get into round 2 now, ladies and gentlemen. I got to tell you what, if I'm the Jets here and Omar Cooper Jr. somehow fell out of the first round, you have to take that. It's just too easy. And the Jets do have another pick in the second round at 44, which they can use to address some other needs. Let me just refresh my memory. The Jets picked, they went Chris Johnson, so they went corner. They could still use an interior defensive lineman. They could still use an off-ball linebacker if there's one on the board there. And then the Cardinals at 34. Apparently, they really love Ty Simpson. If he's staring them in the face at 34, that makes a lot of sense. Very similar to the Will Levis type of thing where he fell out of the first round. And here are the Titans, ironically enough. But I think the Cardinals, Ty Simpson could be a decent fit. He's got to sit, though. How long are you going to sit behind? I always confuse Jameis Winston and this bat. It's not Jameis Winston. Jacoby Brissett. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I love this for Ty Simpson. They do have really good weapons, so they just need a better offensive line to protect them. What they do in the first round? They went David Bailey in the first one. So maybe with one of their further picks in like round 3, they could go offensive lineman if there's a good tackle there. But that remains to be seen. The Titans at 35, they went with Ruben Bain in the first round, I believe. So they need it. They need offensive line, bro. They desperately need offensive line help in Tennessee, whether it's tackle, whether it's guard. And lucky enough for them, there are still some really, really solid. Oh, but they need a receiver too, and Denzel Boston's still here. Oh, there's a lot of, oh, this is fun, bro. There's so much that they could do. There's a lot of good receivers still on the board. There's still some good offensive linemen on the board. They signed Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott in the offseason, so they're not going to look to go safety. They've addressed the entire defense. It's got to be offense here if they neglect it in the first round. So I'm thinking they could go with a guy in Jennings Dunker, who I love a lot. They could go on what tackles are available? Caleb Tiernan's a good tackle. I would definitely not. I think that's a little bit too early. He kind of struggled a lot against Gabe Yakis out of Illinois. So that's a little bit concerning. They could go interior offensive lineman, and I think there's a really, really good one here in Jennings Dunker. There's also a really good one out of Georgia Tech, which why am I not? Oh, Kalen Rutledge right here, who's just a violent, dominant player in run defense, but his pass pro isn't that good. Chase Basantis is probably the most polished out of these guys, but Jennings Dunker is a guy I just like a lot, just extremely violent. But they need best player, polished, day one starter, and that would be Chase Basantis, both against the run and against the pass. The Raiders at 36, they need offensive line help as well. They need receivers. And I think if they get here, they would probably not have thought Denzel Boston would be there. But I think Chris Brazo is better than Denzel Boston. But luckily, I think the Raiders are a trash organization that makes garbage decisions. So I think they're going to go with Denzel Boston. And if I hear one more Raiders fan talk about how, oh, we won the offseason, bro, you signed Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker. You didn't win fall, bro. Stop that. Malcolm Kuntz and Kwity Paye was their answer on the edge. Get the fuck out of here. Their defense is only going to be serviceable next year because the Ravens got cold feet with the trade. Literally the only reason. What I have the Giants doing here, Chad? I have the Giants going Mansour Delane and Jordan Tyson. They could use an offensive lineman on the interior as well. Let me go over to my big board here, chat. Here, I'll share these tabs with you guys just to see. So I have my big board with my offensive notes and all my offensive players, and then I have my big board with all of my defensive players. And the defensive one is a lot more extensive because I need more notes on those guys in comparison to the offensive one, where I got a lot of this in my brain here. But either way, hold on. Why can't I want to share this tab now. Why can't I share the tab? Oh, wait, I'm not on the right one. There we go. Sorry. User error here, chat. All right, let's lock in now. Where are we with the Giants? What did the Giants do in the first round? They went, remind me again, I'm not locked in. They went corner and they went wide receiver. So offensive line still in play here. Could they go interior defensive lineman? Absolutely. And I think there is a really good one still on the board. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yup. And there is Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech is an absolute steal here for the G-Men, man. This guy is unbelievable. The only knock on Lee Hunter is literally he's fat and lazy because when he's at a full gas tank, you can't block the guy. If there's not two sets of hands on him, he's going to put you in the quarterback's lap. So if you're Jalen Hurts, if you're Jaden Daniels, well, obviously, Lee Hunter's not ideal, actually, with Jaden Daniels in the division because this guy would get in the backfield and then athletic quarterbacks would just run around him. But either way, elite against the run as well, just an absolute baller here. I have some stats on Lee Hunter I can unload on you guys here. 33.5 tackles for loss since 2023. First in FBS amongst defensive tackles. 12.5 TFLs, 2.5 sacks, 19 QB pressures in 2025. He is an absolute baller, man. So much strength in his punch. He can drive guys back into, he just collapses the pocket from the middle, doesn't get moved off his spot against the run. But again, his pad level just rises the further we get into the game because he's fat and lazy. So yeah. The Texans at 38, they still need I think I have them going guard in the first round. They could also use a receiver, and I think there's still some really solid receivers on the board, but I also think they could just go BPA, and like, why not go and get an elite edge rusher to replace Danielle Hunter once his contract's up at the end of the year in Malachi Lawrence. And Malachi Lawrence is a guy you add to this Texans group of edge rushers. They could also go safety here, which actually I'm going to do. Swipe that, cross that off the list. We're going safety here for the Texans. We are going with AJ Halsey out of LSU. And the only reason AJ Halsey is not a first round pick is because he's not an elite athlete. That dude is unbelievable, bro. He's got an absolute fucking boomstick on him. I mean, he's the most physical player in the back end in this year's draft, in my opinion, but he's also really good in coverage. He can be a ball hawk. He had a nasty user lurk is just Madden terms against Marcel Reed in Texas A&M when they played him in Death Valley at night in Texas A&M, routed him. It wasn't because of him. AJ Halsey is an absolute baller, bro. Absolute boomstick at the safety position. He had a peanut punch against Caden Lee at Ole Miss, so he's produced against some of the best comp. He absolutely obliterates number 81 for Alabama. He had a forced fumble, 88 tackles. He can play around the box. He can play over the top. He can play the deep third. He can play the deep half. He can play in the middle of the field. He's not as rangy as a guy like a Traden Stukes or a Dylan Thieneman. Like, he's not going to be sideline to sideline like that, but he has the football IQ. He has the feel for leverage. He has the instincts to be a really good player, and he's just an absolute boomstick coming downhill. And they did lose CJ Gardner-Johnson. I understand they signed Reed Blankenship, but AJ Halsey just gives you a more physical presence than Reed Blankenship does in the back end. And I think the Texans just like boomstick guys, and AJ Halsey's an absolute boomstick guy. The Browns, what did I have the Browns doing so far? I had them go, and they picked really well in the mid rounds last year. So they're a team that I think has a little bit of competence in them. Francis Maui-Noah, and then Casey Concepcion. So they're a team that could go defense. They're a team that could go, I don't know what the Browns do. They still need offensive line, and I still think there's a really, there's some good offensive linemen still on the board. They could just double dip at receiver too, and I wouldn't be shocked. But there are still some really good offensive linemen on the board, especially Kalen Rutledge is an absolute baller. Caleb Tiernan at the tackle. But honestly, yeah, Caleb Tiernan, who struggled against Gabe Yakas, but he's definitely the next, like he's the last of the potential day one starter crop. Not day one starter crop, but potential annual starter crop. And then there's a big fall off into these names right here, who I don't think we'll be seeing again. So they get the best of there's a steep fall off after Tiernan at the tackle position from Northwestern, and the Browns have now solidified potentially their two tackle positions. And I don't know, I gotta look at their depth chart, Loki. I don't know who their tackles are. Like, fucking, it's not Jedrick Wills in 2026, is it? That Loki might have been a fuck up. Let's just revisit here. Let's share this tab instead so you guys can see where my head's at. Let's take a look at this Cleveland Browns depth chart real quick here, ladies and gentlemen. Titus Howard, yikes, and DeJuan Jones. Yeah. And the interior, like, Zion Johnson's not great, but Elton Jenkins is a decent player. So yeah, they need tackles, bro. They need tackles desperately. I was right. I was never wrong. I never doubted myself for a second. And they go with two really good tackles, and then Casey Concepcion, who I think is an absolute baller. And now the Chiefs, what did I have the Chiefs doing? Kenyon Sadiq and then Caleb Downs. They need edge help desperately, and there is a really, really nasty group of edge rushers still on the board here. Gabe Yakas is an unbelievably, these two guys are my favorite, unbelievably productive edge rushers. I think they just go with Malachi Lawrence, who's a little bit more productive and has a little bit more polish in his pass rush moves. I mean, he's got every move in the book. He can beat you off the edge. He can beat you with a bull rush. He can beat you with a spin move. He can beat you with a rip. He's just unbelievably polished, and he's had a lot of production as well. Let me get to him in my notes real quick just to go over just how nasty his production was, because he is an unstoppable force. I think he had like 20 sacks over the last 2 seasons or something pretty damn close to it. My fucking dude, my notes on the defense is just so much longer. Holy shit. So I had him as my my edge 5, 7 sacks, 7.5 sacks as a sophomore as well. He was a senior year last year. He got injured in his can't speak. He got injured in his junior year. So 7.5 sacks as a sophomore, 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 28 tackles. He has a really good bend, really good first step, really good plethora of pass rush moves, and they get a guy to throw on the other side of George Karlaftis here. The Kansas City Chiefs do. The Bengals need a lot of the Bengals need edge. They need safety. They need defensive tackle. What defensive tackles are still on the board? I'm not that high on Christian Miller at all. I have Caleb Bakes and Grayson Halton rated over Christian Miller, and I also have not. Where's the guy from Cincinnati? Excuse me, Pro Football Network. Where is the guy from Cincinnati? Is this a joke? Shout out to Moncay Park. We'll get back to him for sure. Dante Corleone down all the way down fucking here. That's so disrespectful. That is so incredibly disrespectful. They could go defensive tackle and throw another guy just next to Dexter Lawrence, because why the fuck not? But they definitely need edge. And I think here, Gabe Yakas, absolute production over the past few seasons. All-state wrestler, 11 sacks in 2024, 3 forced fumbles, great hand placement, plethora of pass rush moves. He had 8 sacks and 13 TFLs his junior year as well. Multiple year starter, captain, all-state wrestler, athlete. Can't drop in coverage, so he's a little bit inconsistent in that aspect, and he's not going to be in there on rushing downs as well. He's inconsistent against the run. He doesn't have an elite frame either, but he is just a polished, experienced pass rusher. And all of a sudden, the Bengals are having a pretty solid offseason with Boya Mafe, Dexter Lawrence, Gabe Yakas, the safety from fucking Kansas City as well. And I think the Bengals have really cooked things up a little bit here. The Saints now back on the clock. What did I have the Saints doing in the first round? I had the Saints going Sonny Styles. That's nasty. They still need a wide receiver. And bro, honestly, if I'm the Saints, this just fell perfectly for me, because Chris Brazzell Chris Brazzle, ladies. Wait. I still have some nasty corners on the board, though, too, here. Let's not overreact. Colton Hood, Brandon Cease still on the board. Oh, man. I'm not as high on Colton Hood as everybody else, but Brandon Cease this is way too low for him. So we're going to hold off on the Chris Brazzle glaze. Brandon Cease to the Saints. Really good press man corner. Plays with a lot of fire. Lacks eye discipline in zone coverage, but he had some really, really good. I gotta fucking. This is just such a hassle going from. Oh my gosh, scrolling on this every fucking 2 seconds is just unbelievable. I gotta figure out a better way to do this, but we're gonna figure it out momentarily. I just want to get to my notes because I don't have his coverage stats memorized. There we go. 12 pass breakups over the last 2 seasons. 5 pass breakups, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. Allowed only 18 catches all year. Just elite in pass coverage and in press man. He gets his hands on you early, has a really good arm bar. He's physical at the catch point as well. He's a really good ball skill player, but not in he's not going to get a bunch of pecks, but he's good at fighting through contact at the point of attack. He's just an all-around really good press man corner. Reminds me a lot of Trey Amos, who I was watching last year. It was a similar just press man dog. So this is a good get here for the Saints because now they've addressed off-ball linebacker in Demario Davis. They addressed the corner in Brandon Cease. They lost Alontae Taylor. And then next, they just need to address some edge. And this is a really, really deep edge rusher class. So I'm sure they will get an opportunity to do so. The Dolphins at 43. This will be their third pick. The Dolphins have a little bit of draft capital here, ladies and gentlemen. Look out for them to come and trade up low-key. I didn't realize how much draft capital they have. But they went Zion Young out of Mizzou. Carnell Tate in the first round as well. So they addressed edge, they addressed receiver. I still think they could use some weapons, bro. I still think they could use some weapons, but they might as well go out and get a corner in Colton Hood, who I'm not high on. But again, I am not high on. I think the Dolphins make bad decisions. Colton Hood would be another one of those bad decisions. I have Colton Hood as my CB8 behind Keith Abney, who's still on the board, behind D'Angelo Pons, who is, I think he's still on the board. I don't know. Behind Julian Neal, who's definitely still on the board. I'm just not that high on Colton. I think he stunk against Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams got whatever he wanted at whatever part of the route, whether it was in the stem, whether it was off the release. He's a walking pass interference penalty. He's just not as good. He panics when the ball's in the air. He gets flustered, and he's in good position often. But when the ball's in the air, he doesn't get his head around it. He just starts flustering like he doesn't know what to do. So it's a perfect fit for him in Miami because he's going to be a bust potentially. The Jets at 44. Oh, wait, what did I have? I had him going Omar Cooper. They could. Why does it say? No, they need edge rushers. They do need edge rushers. What receivers are still on the board here? D'Angelo. No, it's fucking D'Angelo Pons, bro. Give me D'Angelo Pons all day. All of a sudden now, and I know they signed Deshaun Wright this offseason. They drafted A.Z. Thomas last year. They brought in Mika Fitzpatrick. But D'Angelo Pons can play in the slot. They drafted, oh my gosh, Chris Johnson in the first round. He could play on the outside, and now they have their guys. And D'Angelo Pons has the best tape out of any corner in this year's fucking draft. I don't care. The best tape. He was tackling Mark Fletcher, who's like 6'4", 350. The dude was the biggest fucking Derrick Henry protege running back in the NFL or in the country last year, and he's coming downhill at him in the national championship game. Okay, he was locking up Malachi Tony. He was locking up C.J. Daniels. He was locking up DeCorian Moore, Malik Benson. DeCorian Moore didn't play against Indiana, but he was locking up Malik Benson. He was locking up Jeremiah fucking Smith at times, bro. Jeremiah Smith obviously is going to get his because he's unguardable. But he did really, really good reps against Jeremiah Smith. So I don't understand the whole, he's too short. Well, he was short in college, and he was still able to produce against some of the best competition in college. It's not that big of a deal to me. Those guys are going to be playing in the NFL as well. Why can't it translate? I think it will. Give me D'Angelo Pons. Now, the Ravens at 45. What did I have the Ravens doing? I think I had them going Olavega, Iwane, right? Let me just double. Yep, I did. So the Ravens could use an edge rusher as well here, and I think there are some really good ones still on the board. It's just Howell isn't a 3-down type of edge the way R. Mason Thomas is, who's really solid against the run. Is very rare out of all of these. Like the edge rush class is deep, but it gets into there's not a lot of speed power combo guys. There's a lot of either speed or either power. Cassius Howell, for example, still on the board. Really just a speed guy. Joshua Joseph's really just a power guy. But R. Mason Thomas can do it all. He does have a little bit of injury concern with the ankle flexion. But all of a sudden, around this time last year, they took Mike Green. That Mike Green, if he can take a step next year, R. Mason Thomas can be a 3-down guy. And all of a sudden, they have a little bit with Nnamdi Madubuike coming back. Maybe, just maybe, if they can develop these edge rushers a little bit and they can fit into the scheme of the head coach that I'm forgetting his name, his new head coach from number one head coaching hire. I've been screaming it all offseason, whatever. My brain's in draft mode, not in coach mode right now. But R. Mason Thomas, 3-down guy, sets the edge against the run really well. He's not elite speed. He's not elite power, but he's got both of them. He needs to refine his pass rush toolkit a little bit more. He needs a little bit more counter moves and initial moves to begin with. Once he gets that, and I think he will, I think they have a really good coach over there in Baltimore whose name I can't fucking remember right now. AJ Minter, thank you. And yeah. So I like our Mason Thomas here. The Bucks at 46, they need corner. Corners a need for them. They're going to be relying a lot on Benjamin Morrison going into next season. They could also go linebacker, and CJ Allen's still on the board. Jacob Rodriguez is still on the board. The best linebacker on the board in my mind right now is Jake Galladay out of Cincinnati. The dude's an absolute firecracker. So they could go here. I think corner is a little bit more of a need after losing Jamel Dean. You can get Keith Abney here. I think that's an absolute steal. Keith Abney had a really, really solid year for Arizona State. 41 passer rating. There it is. 41 passer rating when targeted. He's a little bit on the smaller side of things, but he plays like he's 6'5". 13 flags over the last 2 seasons is a little bit concerning. Maybe he's compensating for the smaller frame. Max recovery speed, bites on double moves, not the greatest in run support, but really good ball skills when the ball's in the air. Really good. He jumps really high as well. Like he's good against the contested catches for a guy that's not the biggest, not the tallest, not the strongest. He got better in coverage from 24 to 25. He got better in tackling from 24 to 25. And Todd Bowles is a little bit of a DB whisperer, being a DB himself. So I love Keith Abney here for the Bucks. And what did the Bucks do? The Bucks went, defensive tackle, defensive end. They went Akeem Messidor, and then they come back and Keith Abney, fill some holes on the defensive side of the ball. I love that for the Bucks a whole lot. 37, the Indianapolis Colts. They need edge. They just lost Kwity Paye, Cassius Howell, Joshua Joseph, Romello Heights down here. That's a little bit disrespectful to have Romello Heights that low. But I'm going to go with Cassius Howell here, who was a second leader in sacks in the SEC last year. Really, really good speed guy. But a lot of his production didn't come against the most elite talent. He played Texas. He was a no-show in that game. Texas has 2 NFL-ready defensive or offensive tackles, but he had 3 sacks in a row against Utah State. He dominated LSU. LSU had 2 freshmen left tackle starting, but he's going to win with speed. He can't be on the field every single play, so his role is a little bit limited. He's not good against the run. He's a little bit undersized. He doesn't have long arms, so in that aspect, he's not going to be good, but damn it, in passing down, he's going to get after the quarterback. Really good speed rusher, really good bend, a lot of fun to watch coming off the edge for Texas A&M last year. Cassius Howell at 47. 48, Atlanta Falcons. They do need a receiver, and I think now we do it, man. Chris Brazzell and, oh my gosh, Drake London are 2 physically imposing, nasty receivers on the outside for the Atlanta Falcons. That is just a whole lot of dude, a whole lot of speed, a whole lot of physicality. And Brazzell, out of all of the top, like you have your Jacoby Lanes, you have your Giovanni Bernard, who went up here a little bit. You have these big physical receivers in this year's draft. Your Malachi, wherever Malachi Fields is from Notre Dame. None of those guys run routes and create separation and are as twitchy as Chris Brazzell. Not a lot of wasted movement in his route running and his separating ability, and he separates at a really high level, not to mention he's an absolute monster at the catch point. So Chris Brazzell here is nasty. What did I have? I had the Vikings going with Peter Woods. Oh, they're going to be ecstatic here. They're going to go, I think this website has him as a corner, but I think Traden Stukes, whoa, these are way too high for Genesis. What are we doing here? Why is it Lewis Moore should go undrafted? Nah, not undrafted. That's crazy. Bud Clark below Genesis Smith is outrageous. I don't even know. It's probably like Hennessy or something. That's crazy. That's crazy. Either way, Traden Stukes is on here as a corner. I think he's going to be a safety. Same thing with Keontae Scott. Really fast player. Really, he brings a lot to the table athletically, and he had the nastiest play of the draft season. Like every film guy has been raving about the play against Arizona State, where Traden Stukes comes in over the top of 4'3", 40, really slim frame, can be a nickel slot safety type of guy for that's nasty thinking about it now. If you trade in Stukes on this Brian Flores defense, it's just going to be disgusting in that Kyle Hamilton, Nicky Manwari type of role. Really fast, good blitzer too. That'd be disgusting, bro. That's a dream scenario here if you're a Vikings fan. Peter Woods and then Traden Stukes is just nasty. The Lions also need some offensive line help, even though I think they went Spencer Fano in the first round. What could the Lions? The Lions need corners too, bro. The Lions need corners. And because the Lions have not had the ability to draft a corner, they're going to go Avion Terrell, who I think is an overwhelming bust. Not physical at the catch point, gets boxed out a lot, low motor, afraid of contact in the run game, doesn't like to put his nose around the football. He's good in phase at times, and he can make plays on the ball when it's in the air, but he's lazy. He's lazy against the run. He checks out of plays a lot. I'm just not a fan of Avion Terrell whatsoever. The Panthers, ladies and gentlemen, at 51. Wow, I don't even know where to start with the Panthers. They could take a flyer on a receiver here, and there are some really good receivers. Like somebody's going to reach on Ted Hurst. Somebody's going to fall in love with Bryce Lance. Somebody's going to fall in love with Zachariah Branch. Somebody's going to fall in love with Malachi Fields and his contested catch ability. Somebody's going to fall in love with the 4-3 speed out of Deion Burks. Like, these receivers are going to start coming off the board at some point, but I still think there's just so much more quality still on the board on the defensive side of the thing with your Christian Millers, your CJ Allens, your Jacob Rodriguez's. And not going to lie, throwing Caleb Banks, who's a really, really raw prospect, on this defensive line with Derek Brown would be absolutely disgusting, ladies and gentlemen. That would be absolutely disgusting. And the Packers now, Caleb Banks, by the way, is like, he had like 7 pressures in 2 games against Ole Miss and LSU in 2024. Didn't play a whole lot in 2025, but man, this guy's 6'6". Well, let's get his profile. 6'6", 330, freak athlete, absolute beast when he gets his hands on you. He just moves people over, and he's quicker than he should be for a guy that size. He can get his hands up and block passes at the line of scrimmage as well. Really raw talent. Get him next to Derek Brown on that defensive line. What did I have him going in the first round? Did I have him going Keldrick Falk? Keldrick Falk, Derek Brown, Caleb Banks, and Jalen Phillips on your defensive line. That's a fucking problem, ladies and gentlemen. The Packers need a corner. Keontae Scott. I love Julian Neal a whole lot. I'm not high on Malik Muhammad. Where's it, David? Where's it? The Ohio State guy. Dalen Everett that low is just disrespectful. Where's the Ohio State guy? Oh, there he is. Davison and Higginson's a good play. Will Lee is a really good. Where's Devin Moore too? Devin Moore. There's some good corners on here for sure. We're having linebackers just plummet down the board. That's not ideal. I don't like any of these safeties here. I do like Bud Clark, but he hasn't produced a whole lot since that first campaign when they lost to Georgia. CJ Allen, Anthony Hill, Jack Galladay could be a steal here. And you know the Packers, they like to just go best player available a whole lot. So Jack Galladay could be in play here. They do need offensive line a little bit. I feel like their biggest need is corner. So that we're going to give them, they're a good team. I love Julian Neal out of Arkansas a whole lot. He had really good reps against Malachi Fields. He had a few really good reps against Jeremy Bernard in particular, where he was in phase. The ball's coming in. He looks over his shoulder, tracks the ball all the way down. Looks like Jeremy Bernard has a little bit of a step, dives. Nope, incomplete. I think Julian Neal is one of the most underrated. He's one of my sleepers of this year's draft. He's one of my favorite corners. Really physical, makes plays on the ball a lot, and there's a lot of feast or famine with him. Like if he misses, he'll try and take get a pick 6. I think it happened against Notre Dame, and he missed it. And I don't want to say it was Malachi Fields. I think it was the other receiver for Notre Dame that was pretty nasty. Caught it, turns up field, huge gain. But again, it's the feast or famine. Really smooth in coverage, can mirror receivers really, really well. His hips aren't that fluid, so he struggles on double moves. On in-breakers, out-breakers, he breaks on the ball really, really well. He's good at the line of scrimmage, getting his hands on you, really physical. I like me some Julian Neal. I was very impressed with his tape, especially against Malachi Fields and Jeremy Bernard, who are going to be some NFL players, right? So, and then I like the Steelers at 53. Could they go quarterback here? Could they go Garrett Nussmeier? I think they absolutely could go Garrett Nussmeier, who it was revealed that Garrett Nussmeier had a cyst on his spine, and it felt like he was getting stabbed in the oblique every time he tried to throw the football. And his tape in 24 was not the greatest, but it was way better than it was in 25. You take the fact that he had a cyst on his spine that was hindering his ability to throw the football. You take that into account, that he lost his best receiver in 2024. Rest in peace. But that's not why he lost him. He was going to the draft anyway, but rest in peace. Aaron Anderson barely played last year. He lost Will Campbell. He lost his other starting tackle. He had 2 true freshmen starting at right tackle, and Brian Kelly's a terrorist. You take that into account, and all of a sudden, Garrett Nussmeier, he didn't look that bad. So Garrett Nuss at 53 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It couldn't hurt, and they honestly don't have a lot of needs. And they went offensive tackle in the first round. They traded for Michael Pittman. Like, they are in a position where they could take a flyer on a guy like Nuss this early and still be okay. Like, I think they're going to have a really solid defense next year with the additions of Jaquan Brisker, with the additions of Jamel Dean, who was really their biggest hole on their defense, was their CB2 position. I think Peyton Wilson's only going to get better. I think Patrick Queen's a top 10 off ball. Nah, that's too crazy. Top 10 is crazy. But either way, I think they're in a position where their roster is low key filled out a little bit. I would argue they're a QB away. I would really argue that. And taking a chance on a guy like Nuss isn't crazy right now. I don't think it's crazy. The Eagles at 54. The Eagles are a team that just historically goes best player available. And in my mind, the best player available right now, I have CJ Allen falling way too far. So we're just going to go Georgia linebacker, Georgia player to the Eagles. Shocker. I'm not as high on CJ Allen as a lot of people are. I think he overcommits. I think his play recognition isn't as good in the passing game as it is in the run game. He's really good against the run, but you need to be able to cover. He does have the speed. He has sideline speed where he can cover at the next level, but I don't see what everybody else sees in CJ Allen on tape. I really don't. Same thing with Jacob Rodriguez, honestly. We'll get into him later. The Chargers at 55. Who's their linebacker, bro? Dayon Henley. They don't need a linebacker. He's a dog. They could use an edge. They could use an interior offensive lineman as well. And I'm pretty sure that, yeah, Kalen Rutledge to the Los Angeles Chargers is an absolute steal for them right here, man. This dude is violent in the run game. You know Harbaugh's going to want to run the fucking football. The dude's just a monster. He needs to refine himself in his passing sets a little bit. Same thing with Jennings Dunker, who's one of my favorite offensive linemen in this year's class as well. But that guy's just an absolute physical presence. Let me get to my notes on this guy, dude. He's just a monster. I'm pretty sure there was some insane stat about him too. I could be mistaken though. Nope, I don't have a stat on him. It was on Emmanuel Pregnon who I had the stat on. Never mind. But either way, Kalen Rutledge is just an absolute beast. He finishes, he kills people, he knocks people on their ass. That's what he does, and that's a Harbaugh type of guy. And they need help on the interior of their offensive line a lot. So this makes a whole lot of sense. The Jags at 56. They need linebacker desperately. I like this young GM in Jacksonville. They go with the best linebacker available in my mind right now is Jake Galladay out of Cincinnati. This dude is an absolute athletic freak. 6'4", 239, 35-inch vert, 10 and 5 broad jump, both 89 percentile and higher, 104 tackles, led the team, third in Big 12, third in the Big 12 in tackles, first team all Big 12, was in pass coverage on 42% of his snaps, 0-star recruit from Central Arkansas. He got it out the mud. 10% missed tackle rate over the last 5 seasons, which is ridiculous. Versatile, can rush the passer off the edge a little bit, can drop back into coverage, can play and run fit. 105 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, takes really, really good angles, better angles than CJ Allen, better tackler than CJ Allen, better in pass coverage than CJ Allen. Not as good instincts as CJ Allen against the run, but I'll take all of those over instincts against the run. Made plays on Travis Hunter in fucking open space. He's unbelievable, really technically sound player, and plays like his head's cut off. Good replacement for Devin Lloyd, and he has good sideline to sideline speed. Jack Galladay to the Jags at 56. The Chicago Bears, they still need some edge rush help. Who did I have them taken in the first round? Let's go to the Bears here, ladies and gentlemen. I had the Bears taking Caleb Lomu in the first round. They need some edge rush help. They could use some help on the interior of that defensive line as well. I do think there still are some pretty solid defensive linemen on the board. But hey, Grady Jarrett and Gravon Dexter are fine. I don't know what that whole narrative is that they need guys on the interior of the defensive line. They could go corner here too. Are there any good corners still on the board? Nah, not anybody worth taking here. Jacob Rodriguez could be in play as well, but I wouldn't count on it. Could they go receiver? There are some good receivers still on the board. I'm not going to lie. Like Chris Bell here isn't crazy. They need a center, bro. Didn't they sign? They need a center. They go with the best center available. And in my mind, whoa, I thought Jake Slaughter was the best center. Either way, Sam Heck, whatever. I don't fucking know. I didn't watch the centers. I'll be honest. It's the one position I didn't watch. They need a center. We'll go Sam Heck. Make it fucking easy for me. And I gotta go to bed, so we're gonna start flying through. No, we're not. We're gonna see it through. The Niners need offensive tackle, wide receiver, guard, edge, safety. What have I had the Niners up to? I think I had them going receiver. Oh, no, they went Caden Proctor in the first round. So they're a team that could definitely go receiver here. And I think we could start seeing a little bit of a run on receivers. I wouldn't be shocked a whole lot. But they also could go edge rushers here, man. They don't have a lot of depth at the edge rusher position. I know they have they have Nick Bosa, the rookie from Georgia last year that got injured. They need help on the interior of that defensive line as well, don't they? Let's look at the Niners depth chart. Let's look at the Niners depth chart really quick, chat. Who is on their defensive line? I feel like they need edge help. I'm forgetting the dude's name. The defensive end from Georgia they drafted last year ahead of Jalen Walker. Michael Williams. So they have Michael Williams, Nick Bosa, Osi Odigizua. I did not know that they had Osi Odigizua. That's kind of nasty. CJ West. Oh, they're cooking, bro. They could use some corners, though. Diamador Lenore had a good season last year. Upton Stout is all right. Renardo Green, Malik Mustafa, Jair Brown. They could go safety here, too, bro. They could really go safety here. Oh, I wouldn't be shocked. Are there any safeties that I like still on the board? Let's see. No, I don't like any of these fucking safeties. I don't like a single one of them. Is there one? I feel like, was this a position where they had one lower than? No, I don't like any of these safeties, bro. I don't like any of them. I like probably Bud Clark and Kamari Ramsey the best. So let's just get these guys off my board. They go Kamari Ramsey, they go safety, whatever. Get these fucking guys off my board. Good rangy player, physical, can play sideline to sideline, good ball skills. Texans. What do I have the Texans doing? I don't remember. Didn't they have another pick? They went with AJ Halsey, and they went with Emmanuel Pregnon. I think their defense is so good, they just keep loading up on defense. Like, that's a real possibility. Tank Dell, Nico Collins are not going to go receiver. They just traded for David Montgomery. Is it too early for one of the running backs to come off the board here? I've totally forgot about the running back position. Like, I have not had any RBs come off the board here. That's a little bit concerning. The Steelers could have went RB instead of Nuss, low key. But I can't just neglect the running back position, you fucking brick. Let's just go to all here. Christian Miller still on the board. Wow. I'm not that high on him. I mean, that's a guy I'm not that high on, quite frankly. But the Texans could use. They lost Tim Settle. The Sheldon Rankins is getting up there. Christian Miller at 59. I'm not that high on him. I think he didn't impact the game a whole. He's really good against the run, but in pass rush, he's just a non-factor. He doesn't move the line of scrimmage. He doesn't get moved off his spot either, which makes it easier for linebackers to fill gaps. He's one of the highest graded run defenders in the draft. So for me having him fall this far was probably a fucking mistake. I can't believe I forgot about him. But I'm not as high on Christian Miller as I am on some of the other defensive tackles that went ahead of him. Even guys like deeper on here, like Damone Capehart, Grayson Halton. There's another one down here too from Cincinnati, Dante Corleone. Like I'm way higher on those guys than I am on Christian Miller, especially at the price you'd have to pay for Christian Miller. But either way, the Bears back on the clock again. What did I have? So they went center, and then I had them going Caleb Lewis. So they went offensive line. They need some defense here. The Bears need some defense. Let's go with who's the best defensive player here. They could go interior with Grayson Halton. They could go really high upside with Demonte Capehart. They could go linebacker here with Jacob Rodriguez. Yeah, we'll go Jacob because they did just lose Tremaine Edmonds. They do have TJ Edwards, but still they could use another linebacker. And I don't like any of the corners here at this point. I think it's a little bit too early. I think Jacob Rodriguez, although I'm not as high on him, I think he played behind a defense that's going to have 2 first rounders potentially, and Lee Hunter not in this mock draft, and is going to have 4 guys that are going to be in the NFL, 3 guys that are going to be in the top 3. So I think Jacob Rodriguez is a little bit of a benefit of that, and he's a little bit slower than a lot of people think. Like I know he ran a good time, but it didn't show up on tape. He seemed slow on tape. He lacked depth in zone coverage too. He didn't have great eye discipline. I think he wasn't even the best linebacker on his team, bro. Quite frankly, like watching back the tape, especially in the big games. So yeah, the Rams. What are the Rams? The Rams have no needs, bro. Dead ass. The Rams are just a load. They're going best player available. They really are. And in my mind, the best player available right now, I don't know, bro. I gotta look at the Jennings Dunker is a dog. Do they need guard? I don't think they need guard, but I guess they need a center. They need interior offensive line. Jennings Dunker is just an absolute physical presence down low. Let me get to my notes on him. The dude is just a monster, man. He has a little bit of frame concern, so he was a tackle. He's gonna shift to the inside. 4-year starter, great showing at the Senior Bowl. O-line won the Joe Monroe for the best offensive line unit in the league. All academic guy, smart physical player who's gonna fall because of the size concern, but the lateral quickness isn't great. But oh boy, is he physical, and he's just an absolute bruiser on the interior. I think the Rams are in a spot where they go best player available. I think Jennings Dunker is the best player available, just an absolute mauler in the run game. The Broncos at 62, their first pick of the day, and they go with one of the best route runners in my mind in this year's draft in Antonio Williams, who can just separate underneath. They don't really have like an underneath threat. Like they have a bunch of speed guys and a bunch of stretch the field guys. They don't exactly have a possession guy that can move the chains, and he can track the ball deep well down the field. He's really sharp in and out of his breaks. One of the best route runners in this year's class. I love me some Antonio Williams. He comes off the board here. The Patriots, what I have the Patriots doing? The Patriots going Blake Miller. The Patriots with their second, or are we in round 3 here? Are we still in round 2? Last 2 picks around 2. The Patriots at 63. They need a receiver. These receivers are not exactly. Oh no, they're going AJ Brown, so they probably don't need a receiver that bad. And who did I have them? I already forgot who. I already just scrolled up. I had him going Blake Miller at the tackle, the offensive lineman out of Clemson. They could go edge here for sure. This is where we see Romello Heights come. Oh no, they need a linebacker, Anthony Hill Jr. Anthony Hill Jr. really good in run fit. I think he's not good against pass pro or in pass coverage. I just don't think he's good at it. He got beat a lot. He gets bad depth. He has bad eye discipline. But against the run, he just shoots gaps so incredibly fast. And he just has an absolute thumper on him. Real Vrabel type of guy. 63 to the Patriots. They get a linebacker of the future. The Seahawks at 64. They need a replacement at edge. I had him taking Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I did. They need a replacement at edge. Joshua Joseph gives you a lot in terms of power and run defense, not really run. I'm not a Joshua Joseph guy. Let's just call it. I mean, Caden Proctor had good reps against him. Caden Proctor's tape is garbage. I'm way more of a Romello Heights guy. What are some names down here? I don't know any of these guys down here, quite frankly. I'm way more of a Romello Heights guy. I'm not a Danny Dennis Sutton guy. Derek Moore is a solid power rusher from Michigan as well. LT Overton is good in run fit. Anthony Lucas, this is where the drop off is. I don't know any of these guys after Anthony Lucas. So I'm going to go with Romello Height, who I think had a really, really solid year. 10 sacks at Texas Tech. Good speed rusher, play like his hair's on fire, can set the edge in the run game a little bit, but he overcommits a lot. He's going to be a productive speed guy at the next level pretty soon. Why don't the Jets don't have a third? That's upsetting. The Cardinals with the first pick of the third round. Oh boy, we have a marathon episode for the boys today. What do we have the Cardinals doing early? We had the Cardinals. They went David Bailey in the first. Then they went Ty Simpson. So what do they need? I think their receiver room is fine. So I don't think they're gonna go receiver here. I think that Buda Baker's good, not great. Will Johnson is a good young player at corner. They could go running back. Could this be where we see a running back come off the board? I think absolutely it is. I think absolutely it is. They did just sign Tyler Algier, so I wouldn't think they'd go physical guy. I think they'd go with a guy with some more upside in Mike Washington, who is a good combo guy. The only problem with Mike Washington, like I have Emmett Johnson over him. Obviously, I have Jadarian Price. Oh, whoa, I'm a dumbass. Stupid ass motherfucker. What a dumbass. How stupid was that? Why do they have Mike Washington? Jadarian Price is the second best RB in this class. To take him in the first round if you're Seattle is not ideal, especially with all of the depth at the defensive side of the ball. But I think a lot of the depth on the defensive side of the ball has vanished. And all of a sudden, you see Chris Bell here. I'm not that high on Chris Bell, so debate a wall. Jadarian Price, what does he offer you in the passing game? That's what I want to know, because he only had 10 catches over the last 2 seasons. That doesn't mean he can't do it. Really good twitchy. He gets the edge a lot. Really good speed at bend to get around the edge, and he makes guys miss an open field at a really high rate. He's also not afraid to run through you. Pretty decent breakaway speed. I don't think it'll translate to the next level. I don't think he'll be a home run hitter, but either way, really solid get for the Cardinals. The Titans, what do I have the Titans doing? I don't even remember. I wish it would tell me. Chase Basantis and Ruben Baines. So they could go, they could go edge. They could go off-ball linebacker. That's totally not out of the question. They could go safety. They could go interior offensive line. What offensive lineman? Oh, I know what we're doing with the Titans. I absolutely know what we're doing with the Titans. Where is he? Billy Shrouth is a absolute steal, bro. He's one of my favorite players in this year's draft, dude. He has an MCL tear, an ACL tear. That's the reason he's gonna fall so far. But when he was on the field, he was absolutely dominant. Let me get to my notes on Billy Shrouth too, because there's some insane stats about this dude. He's just an absolute mauler in the run game. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price ran right up his ass. He's just an absolute beast, and he was better in pass pro than he was against the run. Where is my Billy Shrouth glaze? Where's the Billy Shrouth glaze? There it is. Great run blocker, elite run blocker, so I had to emphasize that. Constantly looking for bodies in the second level, hands pack a punch. 2024 ankle injury cost him 4 games. Then a 2025 MCL sprain shut him down for the final 5. Health is the biggest concerns. Did not allow a sack and only allowed 2 hurries in 7 games in 2025. Just an absolute monster. Billy Shrouth to the Tennessee Titans, and they're starting to solidify that offensive line a little bit for Mr. Ward. The Raiders need receivers, bro. Oh my gosh, do they need receivers? And they need big receivers. They need a guy on the outside that can go and win the contested catch ball. And give me Jacoby Lane at really good value here. I think he's closer to Denzel Boston than a lot of people think. Good route runner. Not as good of hands as Denzel Boston. Not as good at the catch point, but boy, that is where he makes living. Boxes out receivers consistently. Good back shoulder merchant, and that's the type of ball that Fernando Mendoza likes to throw, that back shoulder spam here. The Philadelphia Eagles at 68. They're going to go ahead and trade away A.J. Brown, allegedly, right? And what do I have the Eagles doing so far? C.J. Allen, and did they not have a pick in the first round? C.J. Allen and Maxi Inachor. They could go edge here for sure. And I do think there's still a few good edge rushers on the board, right? Joshua Joseph, Derek Moore, LT Overton. They like physical edge setting run defenders. They just lost Jalen Phillips, get his replacement in Derek Moore, who's going to set that edge, going to be a physical pass rusher up off the edge. They're going to win it with the bull. Not a lot of speed rush stuff, not going to be bendy around the edge, but physical presence that can help in the run game. And you're losing that in Jalen Phillips, who's one of the better run defenders off the edge in the league. The Texans at 69. Let's see if my offensive line acumen is still available here. Demetrius Crownover, I'm not familiar. Drew Shelton, I'm not familiar. Yeah, okay. There will be no more offensive linemen off the board, bro. Genuinely, this is where all of the offensive linemen I watched, they're gone. See you later. So yeah, they could use a center, so we'll just get the best center. Listen, I've actually watched Trey Zoon. I've watched Jake Slaughter, and Slaughter's a beast. So give me Jake Slaughter here. The Browns at 70. What do I have them taking? They have a lot of picks, bro. Holy shit. I had the Browns going Caleb Tiernan, the offensive tackle, with Casey Concepcion, and then Francis Mauinoa. So they went tackle, receiver. They could still go defense, even though their defense is really solid. They could also go quarterback. What QBs are Drew Aller, Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik? All these guys fucking stink, bro. They stink. They could go receiver, double dip at receiver. And Ted Hurst is a really, really productive big guy, ran in the 4.3s. Bryce Lance ran in the 4.3s. He averaged like 20 yards a catch. Elijah Surratt, Zachariah Branch, Deion Burks ran in the 4.3, so he could go. Dejon Stribling had a good combine and post-draft process as well. I'm trying to think. They need a bigger guy, though. They need a guy that can go and win on the outside. Oh, no. I had them taking Carnell Tate. No, I had them taking Casey Concepcion. So, yeah, they still need a bigger receiver that can go and win on the outside. So why not go and get Malachi Fields, who's just a contested catch beast in the red zone as well. And the Commanders, they need a center too, apparently. So we can just get these centers out of here because I don't know what the hell I'm doing with these centers. But they need offensive line. Their offensive line's pretty solid. They could use another safety or another corner. Any corners on the board that I still like? Oh yeah, there is actually. There is a corner I like a whole lot. Mr. Devin Moore out of Florida, who dealt with a lot of injuries, but he's 6'4", low 4.5 speed, and he shows that the speed shows up on tech. He's long strides. He stays with receivers in phase. Zone coverage type of guy. Picked off Carson Beck in 2024. Didn't start a whole lot because of some of the injuries. Like he was a 4-year college player, only started really for 1 full year. Really physical in the run game, going to tackle and lay the boom. But this guy's 6'4", 198, low 4.5, good tackler. Didn't allow a reception against Miami. A lot of zone coverage, but he did allow 50% completion percentage on when he was targeted, which is not great if you're allowing half of the passes to go your way to get completed. But again, there's worse numbers. There's higher numbers out there for sure, but still really raw, high ceiling, good ball skills. The frame is there. The speed is there. He's a good player. This would be a good get for the Commanders as they continue to try and build on the defensive side of the ball. The Bengals, well, the Bengals have been just cooking. The Bengals went Dexter Lawrence, Gabe Yakus, and that's it. And Boya Mafe. Could they just continue to build on that defensive side of the ball? Like their offense is in a pretty good spot, man. Like I think their offense is going to be fine. They could go safety. We can just get these guys off the board absolutely and play here. But I think they go defensive line again and just hammer home that defensive line with a guy that has some elite upside in DeMonte Capehart. Ladies and gentlemen, this dude's RAS was historically high for defensive tackles at the combine. And RAS's relative athletic score. Really long arms, wide wingspan. Ran a 4.8 at 315 pounds. Really fast hands, incredible first step, 91 percentile in height, 93 percentile in 40, 92 percentile in vertical jump, 74 percentile in his 10-yard split. Just an absolute beast. And when he was on the field, you saw the athleticism. The only problem is he didn't start a whole lot of games, only 12 starts in college. Quick first step, man. Really fast hands, and those hands pack an elite punch. This guy has really, really high upside. He is, what is his measurable? 6'5", 313. He is a beast, bro. I loved watching Clemson. I was watching Clemson to watch Peter Woods, and this guy was just making play after play after play. He's an absolute baller. And you put him and his athletic ability next to Dexter Lawrence, Boya Mafe, Gabe Yakus, and all of a sudden the Bengals have built a pretty solid foundation there if they can hit on a few of those guys. The Saints at 73. What do I have the Saints doing so far? I think I had the Saints Brandon Cease in the first round or in the second round. Okay. So they went Cease in the second round. They went Sonny Styles in the first round. So they could still go defense here. Like I wouldn't rule that out of the question at all. They could go interior defensive line. And I'm pretty sure they have a solid interior defensive lineman. I think his name's like Gregory or something. Let me share this tab with you guys. Carl Granderson. So it's not Gregory, but Carl Granderson is a solid player. They did lose Cameron Jordan, so this defensive line depth chart just looks fucking awful, dude. Awful. So they could go interior defensive line, and I think there is a guy on the interior of that Cincinnati defensive line that I'm really high on. I don't know how he's this far on here, and that is Dante Corleone. This guy is 6 feet tall, but 350 fucking pounds. I kid you not. They have him at 340. 6 feet tall, 340 pounds, Dante Corleone. There's not a player. This guy's pad level doesn't get higher than anybody's, and he's got such a wicked first step for a guy that's 340. The only problem with it is that a lot of this weight's not functional. He's just a fat lard. If he can just get this weight down a little bit, he can be a real problem. Really fast hands, really strong hands, always moving bodies, always winning the leverage battle. Dante Corleone, a little bit of a Puna Ford in terms of the underside, but he's always going to win with his leverage. He is an absolute baller from Cincinnati. Cincinnati's defense was underrated up the middle last year. It was really solid. Between him and the linebacker, whose name I'm forgetting, I forget who took him, but either way, they're very underrated defensive line last year, or up the middle of that defense. The Chiefs, what do I have the Chiefs doing? I don't even fucking remember. I think I had them going Kenyon Sadiq, Malachi Lawrence, the Chiefs are cooking. And Caleb Downs. Yeah, the Chiefs are absolutely obliterating this draft. This is nasty. And there's still some good guys on the board here. And what do we know about Andy Reid, bro? What is Andy Reid like? Andy Reid loves him some speedsters, bro. He loves some speed. He goes with Deion Burks after his 4.3 40 time. Just absolute burner. And he adds some more speed to a really speedy wide receiver because that's what Andy Reid does. Andy Reid loves speed, big speed guy. I don't know if I said that. The Dolphins on the clock. What do I have the Dolphins do? This is kind of stressful just going back and seeing Colton Hood. The Dolphins make bad decisions. That's what the Dolphins do. And the Dolphins need wide receiver, although I think I had them going like Jordan Tyson or what the, let's see what I had the Dolphins doing. Zion Young, Carnell Tate, Zion Young, Colton Hood. That's a pretty good draft. That's pretty good. I'm not a Colton Hood guy, but I think the Cardinals make bad. I think the Dolphins make bad decisions. I think they make bad decisions, and Chris Bell would be a bad decision. The guy can't get open. He's a yak merchant, and yak merchants don't pan out in the NFL unless they refine some of their other skills. This is where we see another running back come off the board. Emmett Johnson, I think, is an absolute dog. I think he's better than Mike Washington. Mike Washington was a fifth-year senior, and he finally broke out. And he doesn't play like a 6'4" running back or whatever. How tall is he? 6'2", 6'1", ran in the 4.3s. He doesn't play that big. But the truck against Texas, that's one play. And he does have really elite burst, but I'm telling you, Emmett Johnson is just an absolute bowling ball. He just bounces off tackles. He runs through your face. He's finishing forward. He's a pure 3-down back, good route runner out of the backfield as well, reliable hands. He had some incredible games against Penn State and Iowa last year. He just put that Nebraska offense on his fucking back. Bell cow, 3-down back, absolute dog. I love me some Emmett Johnson. The Bucks on the clock again at edge rusher. They could go with the guy. What would I have the Bucks? I keep forgetting. I wish it would just tell me what I had them taking. I don't have to keep scrolling. Keith Abney, solid from the Bucks so far. Keith Abney and Akeem Mesidor. They could go interior defensive line as well, but I think I took my favorite interior. Oh no, Grayson Holland's still on the board. That guy's a fucking beast, bro. This guy I've never seen anybody move and move it. Well, I have, but he moves the defense back so consistently, bro. He just moves the line of scrimmage back. He's an absolute baller as well out of Oklahoma. Let me just get to my notes on this guy as well, because I'm pretty sure I had some very nice things to say. 8.5 sacks in the last 2 seasons as interior defensive line. His burst off the line of scrimmage just explodes, always moving the line of scrimmage upfield, really high motor, gets upfield really fast. He was the captain of the team. He's falling because he has bad frame. His arm length isn't that great, 6'2", 293. So he's not elite in the size category at all. And that's kind of the vibe you're going to get out of some of these guys later in the draft. They're all going to have flaws. That's why, or else they'd be top picks, right? To be this productive and have flaws is still a testament to how good they are. And Grayson Halton was really productive. 8 sacks in back-to-back or in the last 2 seasons for an off-ball linebacker is pretty solid. Speaking of off-ball linebackers, there's a guy in Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh that's going to go here to the Indianapolis Colts. Oh my gosh, it stopped sharing the screen. I hope it didn't do that for too long, bro. That's really annoying. That's really, really annoying. But there's a guy in Kyle Lewis who is just an absolute athletic freak, dude. Let me get to it really quick. He's in the 90th percentile or better in vertical jump, broad jump, and 40-yard time and 40 time. 75% or better in the 3-cone and his 10-yard split. Absolute athletic freak. The only problem with Kyle Lewis is he can't play the run. I mean, if a lineman gets to the second level on this guy, they just run through his face. I mean, look at what is he? 220 at 6 feet tall. They just run through his face and toss him to the side, no problem. But boy, is he fast, leading coverage. He's going to have a role in the defense as a nickel linebacker in passing scenarios. Good tackler, though, to be fair to him, but he's just really, really good against tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. Really good, really, really good coverage linebacker. Not that good against the run, but that is a position I need for them. They sent the Zaire Williams or whatever his name is to the Packers. Zaire Smith, maybe? No, I don't know. I forget his name. But he got traded to the Packers. All right, who's on the clock now? The Falcons. What have the Falcons doing, bro? The Falcons don't have their first-round pick. That was traded for a guy in James Pierce Jr. who should be in prison. And then in the second round, I had them going Chris Brazzell. So they went receiver. They could go center. Let's just get these centers off my board, bro, because I don't know any of them. They could go corner as well. And Will Lee is a guy that's really tall, good reach, good arms, good arm length. Kind of soft at the catch point for a guy. So he got mossed against LSU, but he was in the right position. So I don't really like this a whole lot. Tacario Davis is a guy that I'm pretty sure has been flying up boards because of his size, his reach, his speed. Looked like a top 50 pick coming off a standout 23, 50 pass pickups. Yeah. So Tacario Davis could be in. Yeah, we're going to do it actually. I remember watching a YouTube video on Tacario Davis and they were just breaking him down and he was an absolute baller. The Ravens, what do I have the Ravens doing? I think I don't remember. But I have Vega Ioane and then D'Angelo Ponte. No, that's the Jets. The Jets took D'Angelo Ponte. Mason Thomas. Good draft for the Ravens so far. Good draft for the Ravens so far. Let's see what else. Oh, bro. No, they don't need a linebacker. They have Roquan Smith. They could go receiver. Oh, yeah, they're going receiver. The Ravens are going receiver for sure. And Jeremy Bernard, really good route runner. I think he benefited a lot from the scheme and having Ryan Williams and Thornton in that backfield or in that offense with him. Ty Simpson was also operated the offense really well, but he's really good after the catch. I mean, he just makes guys miss. He gets open, really reliable hands. This is a steal. Getting Jeremy Bernard this late in the draft as well would be nasty. The Jaguars, it says a need at receiver. I don't see it that way. I think the Jags receiving room is solid, but they definitely have a need at running back. Mike Washington Jr. Pair him up with Bishal too, and you have a really, really solid 1-2 punch. A lot of speed in that 1-2 punch, but Mike Washington Jr. can be the physical aspect of it. Both guys can catch passes out of the backfield as well. That would be nasty for the Jags here, and they're putting together a pretty decent draft all of the sudden. The Vikings are a team that could go running back as well. I don't know why it doesn't say that's a need for them, but Jonah Coleman is a guy that's really good catching passes out of the backfield. Limited route tree, but goes from pass catcher to runner really fluidly. Elite in tight windows, makes or in tight spaces, in making guys mix, getting extra yards after the catch. He was my RB5, I believe. I think he was my RB5. Washington mine before. Emmett Johnson RB3. And then obviously the two Notre Dame guys with Love being RB1. But Jonah Coleman, one of the top 5 RB in my mind in this year's draft. So a mini run on RBs here with Washington to Jacksonville, Jonah Coleman to the Minnesota Vikings. The Panthers on the clock again, and they've just been addressing that defensive line. Now they can go and get a wide receiver in Skylar Bell, who was just terrific for UConn last year. Some of the catches this guy made in tight windows. There was a catch against Syracuse over the middle that was just silly. The only problem is he was at Wisconsin for 3 years. He didn't do jack shit. Didn't produce until he came to UConn. Good route runner, really, really good at the catch point. He can make guys get missing open space, but it was against bad competition. But the tape is too good from him his senior year for him to drop any further. The Packers, what do I have the Packers doing? I had the Packers taking Julian Neal corner, nasty. Do they have a first round pick? I don't think they do. Micah Parsons trade. So yeah. Okay, they don't. So Julian Neal, and then sorry, my brain's malfunctioning here. They could use some depth at receiver. No Dontavian Wicks, no Romeo Dobbs. It's gonna be Matthew Golden. It's gonna be Christian Watson. It's gonna be Jaden Reed. So I guess they don't need that much depth at receiver. I take that back. They could go defense. They could go tight end. Eli Stowers. No, they have no. Eli Stowers still on the board here is crazy, bro. Eli Stowers needs to get off this board instantly. I forgot about the tight ends. I forgot about tight end. They don't need offense. They could go tackle, but Jordan Morgan. They could go guard here, but I think the interior of that offensive line is pretty solid. I think edge rusher is the play here for Green Bay, and they go get a physical guy in Joshua Joseph who could set the edge and just be an absolute bull rusher and get upfield. That's a good. I think they'd be happy with this if you're a Green Bay Packers fan. You'd be happy with this, addressing the edge position, addressing the cornerback position in Julian Neal, and all of a sudden we've had a pretty solid draft. The Steelers, what are the Steelers have a lot of picks, bro. They went Emmett Johnson, they went Garrett Nussmeier, and then in the first round they went Monroe Freeling. The Steelers, bro. Eli Stowers here to Pittsburgh seems nasty, bro. Nasty. But they don't need a tight end because they got fucking Darnell Washington and Pat Fryer mid. But either way, I want to do it so bad. They could go receiver here. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't like any of these receivers that much. I think there's some sneaky guys later in the round, but I already took all my, like this guy right here, Aaron Anderson, could be really sneaky in the later rounds. Zachariah Branch is a really good gadget guy for them, but I have a landing spot that I want Zachariah Branch to go to. Deeper on this board, they could just go best player available on the defensive. So who is the best player available here? Oscar Delp, but I'm not a Delp guy. Not a Delp guy. They could go Josiah Trotter, but they have linebackers, bro. They could go with another corner out of Will Lee, who's just a freak athlete. Let's just get this guy off my board because I'm fucking tired of looking at him. Even though, I mean, I don't know who their other safety is, but they just signed Jaquan Brisker. The Chargers need offensive line help, but I'm pretty sure we addressed it. They could use a corner too. Did they go corner? They went Kalen Rutledge in the second round. They could use a corner. What corners we got on the board here? Keontae Scott's a good player, good ball skills, corner safety hybrid, covers a lot of ground, good speed. He had the pick against Ohio State, the pick against Ohio State. He had a couple of scoop and scores for touchdowns as well. Keontae Scott, really rangy defensive back, can go from CB to safety. He's a versatile piece in that defense as well. The Miami Dolphins make bad decisions, so let's continue the bad decision stuff here for the Miami Dolphins. Oh no, it's not Caleb Proctor. I will not disrespect Mr. Caleb Proctor. We're getting to the part now where my knowledge is getting slim here. My knowledge is getting slim. What do I have? I had them going corner. did I have them going edge? I had them going Chris Bell out of the wide receiver, Carnell Tate, Colton Hood, Zion Young. They've had a fucking haul. The Dolphins have so many picks, dude. Holy cow. And they have another pick in this third round, too. The Packers. Well, they have 3 picks in the third round. What the fuck? All right, the Packers. They go tight end here, actually. They go Eli Stowers, who is an absolute baller. The Jags need linebacker. They went linebacker already. They could use an interior presence on the defensive line. I'm pretty sure all the guys I know that are higher level D tackles are off the board. Oh, this guy. I mean, I didn't watch Dominique Orange, but a lot of guys rave about him, so I'm just gonna trust those guys here. We're getting to that point. The Bears need defensive tackle. They go with Caleb Proctor out of Southern Louisiana, and I did scout this guy. I did actually scout this guy, believe it or not. The problem with him is that he's a little bit undersized, but he was dominant at the Shrine Bowl versus FBS comp. Really fluid hips, violent hands at the point of attack, generates extreme pocket collapse from the 3 technique, has a lot of good pass rush moves, good moves and counter moves, not good against the run because of his size at 280 pounds with not a lot of length. So he's going to have to play in a pass rush only role, very scheme dependent, but he can be elite in the right fit to utilize that pass rushing ability. And because the Bears have Grady Dexter or Gravon Dexter and Grady Jarrett with now Montez Sweat on the outside. And what did I have the Bears doing in these earlier rounds here? Let's look back at Chicago. See what I had the Chicago Bears doing. Why can't I see them? I had them Caleb Lomu, Sam Heck. They went offensive line. Okay, yeah. So then they go defense here, and they get a guy in Caleb Proctor who's a really high ceiling as a defensive, as a fast, quick first step type of a defensive tackle. The Dolphins back on the clock again after going Eli Stowers. They still need corners. Get Will Lee off my board. Really tall, really rangy. He's in good position a lot, but he doesn't get his head around to the football. Fast, tall, lanky, long type of guy that you need. The Bills on the board. What edge rushers are here that I know? Anthony Lucas. I'm pretty sure this guy's a bull rusher, and that's the type of guy that they like in Buffalo with like your AJ Epinezas, your Bradley Chubb. We'll just go Denny Dennis Sutton because the Bills fucking suck, and I hate them, and I think Denny Dennis Sutton is just not that good. And I am a Jets fan. That's why I hate the Bills, and I hate the Dolphins. The Cowboys. What do the Cowboys do here, bro? I know what the Cowboys do for sure. I know what the Cowboys do. Harold Perkins Jr. is the most volatile player in this year's draft. That guy was at like 8 sacks as a true freshman. He was all SEC as a true freshman. And then Brian Kelly's like, you know what, we're going to move you to off-ball linebacker, where he still had some productive years, but he overshoots gaps, he overcommits, he takes bad angles because he was an edge rusher his whole life. And then he moves into off-ball linebacker after he was an all-SEC edge rusher as a freshman. Make fucking sense. The guy's a clown. Either way, good linebacker, really good get here for the Cowboys. 4.4 speed, absolute sideline to sideline burner, really physical as well, can be a beast in coverage too. The Los Angeles Rams have had a real problem with special teams. So they go out and get Zachariah Branch, who is a really good special teamer, one of the best returners, leads FBS in return yards since 2023, also leads FBS in screen passes since 2023, just a really good twitchy yak. Got to make people miss an open space gadget guy to throw in that McVay offense. Who now they've gone double receiver in this year's draft. I don't even think that's crazy. Special teams has been a real need for them over the past few years. They've had one of the worst special team ratings in the NFL. So now they get a guy who's a proven punt returner in Zachariah Branch. The Miami Dolphins back on the clock again, bro. This team, bro. I'm just gonna go BPA at this point. They've got so many fucking guys. And we'll go with Oscar Dope. Get this guy off my. Oh no, wait a minute. I already went Eli Stowers. You fucking idiot. Undo pick. We'll go with no. Ted Hurst isn't the best player available. Oh, we're getting to a point here where I don't know any of these guys. Yeah, fuck it. Katron Allen. No. Oh my gosh, this is getting brutal here, boys. We're getting banged up here. Let me go to my big board here and see what's up. Devin Moore off the board. Will Lee off the board. All these guys are off the fucking board. AJ Halsey off the board. Oh, we could go with Styles, his brother, Sonny Styles' brother. Trading Stukes off the board. Yeah, all these guys are off the board. Derek Moore off the board. Oh my gosh, this is a guy in the way. Deontay Lawson, is he still on the board? But they have a linebacker. They have good linebackers. We'll just go offensive line. Fuck it. If we don't know, we're going to go offensive line. That's what we're going to do. And let's see, who's the best offensive line? Demetrius Crownover, say less. The Texas A&M offensive line was nasty, so that's pretty solid. They are losing so many guys, dude. Holy shit. Their entire starting line's in the draft. Crownover, Trey Zune, Chase Basantis. I guess just like their entire line's in the fucking draft. The Patriots at 95. I don't know any players now. We're getting to the point here where I don't know any players. Fuck it. They don't even need a CB2. They go receiver Bryce Lance. The dude ran a 4.3. The guy's 6'3". The guy averaged 20 yards a catch. The dude's an absolute baller. I do know some of these running backs, so maybe we go running back here. The Seattle Seahawks. So I don't have them taking a running back actually. So this is actually makes sense. Katron Allen, just an absolute fucking bruiser. Really good vision. And I promise you, it's not just because he was the number one running back on the board there. It's because he does have good vision and he's an absolute thumper. Always finishes forward. The Penn State leader in rushing yards. The Minnesota Vikings on the clock again. I don't know if I had them taking a safety yet, so we can just go with Jalen Kilgore out of. Let me make sure I didn't have them taking safety, actually. Jonah Coleman. Nope, I had them going trading Stukes. Undo to pick. I don't know if they need corner. Who's the best player available here, Devin? Let's just lock in. Who's the best player available? They did lose Jalen Naylor, so they could use a wide receiver 3. I don't think Ted Hurst is the best player available, though. I just don't. That's not how I feel. I don't feel that type of way about him, and it's definitely not any of these guys. Malik Benson's a good player. I'm not that high on Dazon Stribling, although he is really good after the catch. He can put a foot in the ground and make you look silly. Aaron Anderson, I was bullish on, but then I saw he ran like a 4.71. They could go, they'll go with the tackle out of Penn State. Just get a good swing guy, good depth piece because Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill can't stay healthy. The Philadelphia Eagles on defensive side of the ball. Do I know any of these corners? Davis and Negabison, fuck it. They do need a CB2, kind of, right? Like they signed Tariq Woolen, but how is that guy the answer? Who knows? This guy's a good tackler, not the greatest in coverage. Malik Muhammad on the board here. Last 2 picks of this 3-round mock draft that has just been an absolute marathon. Oh man. Oscar Delp, get him off the board, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars. My heart's not in it. They need a receiver. They do need a receiver. Let's see, who do I like here? I don't like any of these fucking guys. Ted Hurst off the board. Georgia Southern. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. The full mock draft, 3-round mock. If you made it this far, man, what a fucking marathon this was. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I love you guys. I'll talk to you guys later. If you're listening on Spotify, I love you guys. I'm sorry that it kind of tailed off at the end there. I get to a point where all right, I don't know any of these fucks. But I did know most of them. Up until like 90, I knew a pretty good amount of those guys. So give me some credit. I love you guys. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast.